The views expressed on the Nova Society are those of the panelists and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Phoenix Research Institute or any institution which any panel member is associated.
Welcome back to the Nova Society. I'm your host, Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, and I'm here with my panel, Dr. Scott Gershwer and Dr. Mark Bound. Today we will be answering listener emails, and we have a question from James, who lives in St. Paul, Minnesota. And James asks, so Trump's sycophants and Trump himself are floating the idea that he could run for another term. That would be his third term. I know the Constitution says only 2 terms, but is there any possibility he might be able to pull this off? To James, I say yes, even though the Constitution says only 2. Whether he'll be alive or not is another question, but at this point, there's been so much violation of the Constitution, it would not surprise me, assuming Trump's alive, if he simply went ahead and figured out a way to go ahead and bypass the Constitution. Go ahead, yeah. Mark, Scott, what do you say?
So my basic thought is we know what's going to happen because it's already happened before. He's not going to run for president again. He's simply just not going to leave the White House. And he's going to say, the vote was fraudulent. It doesn't matter whether the person who's coming in is a Republican or a Democrat. He's not leaving. He's building his ballroom so he can stay there forever until the day he dies. And he's going to die in the White House. Or somebody's going to have to come and get him. And I don't see anybody who's going to do that. Not in this government. So unless something fundamentally changes, he's staying where he is. And if you remember the last time that he did this, he actually told the assistant or acting attorney general, don't worry about the facts. Just say the election was fraudulent and leave it to me and the Republican congressman. And the idea there is that there is a way to get the vote out of the people's hand and into Congress, where the majority of states are going to be Republican and they get, I forget what it is exactly, 26 to 24 or whatever it is, lead and say Donald Trump remains president. And that's how we're choosing this president. It's however implausible it might sound right now. And the notion of this old man trying to run again is just crazy. But because he's going to be 83, I think somebody said. He's not leaving. Like he almost didn't leave last time. And if it hadn't been 2020, if it had been 2019, he wouldn't have. But 2020, public sentiment was pretty much against him. A lot of people came out to vote that never voted before and haven't voted since. And he was forced out after trying everything that he possibly could to stay. And I think he'll do that again.
Yeah, I heard Steve Bannon say what Steve Bannon said, and Steve Bannon's a moron, so I don't really put a lot into it. I did hear that the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, said he could see no way that this would be even possible. Even Trump himself, when he was on the airplane, said, well, I've thought about it, but I don't see how it could be done. I don't think Trump's smart enough to figure out how to get it done. I think it would be somebody like a Stephen Miller, somebody like that would probably try to figure out how to make this happen. But the real question comes down, and Scott's right, I don't see anybody in the Republican side of the government standing up and doing anything. And I can see the Democrats whining a lot about it, not really doing a whole hell of a lot about it as far as, taking true action into this. They'll probably have a committee or something. But I think you're going to find that with Trump's approval rating as it sits right now, and again, we don't know what it's going to be like in 2028. It's still 2025. So I ask myself this, why is this coming up in 2025? I was watching a program, and I won't mention which program that it was, and because the minute this was a comment that resonated with me, the minute that he admits that he's out in 2028, he becomes a lame duck president. That is quite true. But usually we don't take lame duck until like the last year. Usually it's like the last year. Now you're the lame duck guy. The first 3 years you're still going gangbusters. But in year number 4, generally you're the lame duck, and he wants to avoid being the lame duck, because if you're the lame duck, a lot of stuff you can now not control. The Congress understands you're a lame duck, so they're not going to be quite so, even in your party, are not going to be quite so willing to, go along with you, because they've got to have a new horse to hitch their wagon to. So that might mean things like the Epstein files. That means, a whole bunch of things could come out once he admits I'm a lame duck, which again, historically should not even be thought of until year number 2.5 is over with. But for some reason, they're bringing it up now. And for me, that really explains why this is even a conversation. I truly do not believe that he's going to even attempt it. I think he wants to maintain as much power as he can and much control as he can until the very last day. And for me, it's all about, again, his MO is deflect and distract. Deflect and distract. Don't look over there, look over here. Because if you look over there, you're going to see something bad about me. I want you to look over here. I think some of his buffoonery, baby staged shit, just so that, you're going to hear Jimmy Kimmel and everybody say that he's, mentally not competent. Now, he may not be mentally not competent, but his buffoonery, basically, that's what you're going to be. That's what we're going to focus on. I heard more about today when I was listening to the news. I heard more about Trump getting lost when he was in Japan and having to be guided around like a dog at Westminster than I did about the Epstein files. Now, I'm not saying that this is 4D chess that he's playing. He's a buffoon to begin with. So his handlers basically are working with the star power that you got. He's good at being a buffoon. Let him be a buffoon. And let the news media, let the social media talk about that.
Yeah.
Because they're not talking about the real important shit. Like 4 boats getting blown up and having no proof. We're not talking about that. We're talking about, look how he was walking around. Ooh, look, let's show a picture of his hand. Let's talk about that. Because that's again, sensationalism. We are a society today in the United States that truly believes, for many people, Honey Boo Boo is real. That's the stupidest shit I ever heard in my life. Same thing with The Apprentice. We believe that it was not scripted, or that Real Housewives is reality, because it's called reality TV, and it's playing on that. It plays on that, and it distracts us. And again, once he admits he's a lame duck president, you're going to see those Republicans, even those ones that were all for him all this time and, had their head up his butt, you're going to see them. Now you got to find the next wagon, horse to hitch your wagon to. And a lot of his power will go bye-bye.
Well, I will say, I think you make a real good point about it being 2025 and why are we talking about this? I think the reason for that is actually to galvanize Republicans and voters who may lean Republican for 2026. And he wants a big showing in 2026. He wants to keep the Senate. He wants to add to the House. He wants a big wave election in his favor in 2026. And then he could do whatever he wants to after that. I do think, Biden had the same problem, right? So Biden didn't want to announce that he was going to be stepping down because that made him a lame duck. He should have done it right after the midterms, instead of continuing on. That would have been the best time for him to go. I always felt that Biden should have not just stepped down from being the next candidate, re-election, but stepped down as president at that point. And let Kamala Harris, or if he wanted to find somebody else, he could have engineered it somehow, be the president and have 2 years to run on her record or whoever his handpicked successor was, if it wasn't going to be Kamala Harris, rather than doing what he did and dither along the way he did. And I don't think that Biden was in as bad a shape as people like to now make him out to be. but he was, clearly he was not good on TV at that point. And I think that Trump continues to get more and more erratic and crazier and more demented, really, as time goes on. But the big difference between the two of them, you have never seen anybody be as powerful as Donald Trump was when he was not in office. He was able to still manipulate
Right.
the Republicans to not enact the immigration legislation that they had put together, real painstakingly put together, making nobody happy, the perfect bipartisan compromise, and he killed it. And also killed the Israeli-Gaza peace deal, more than likely. I don't know if there's proof of this, but I do know that Axios had a story about it at the time, and it seemed plausible when I read it at the time, and I believe that it's probably accurate, that he said, I want to run on the Israeli-Gaza peace deal, so I can't have you solve the problem now. And that's what Netanyahu went ahead and didn't join in with that. I don't really have much more to say. I hate to speculate on things like this, but I don't think he's planning to leave. I think he believes that he's going to be there forever, and it's going to be something to get him out of there. It's going to be like pulling a tooth.
I agree with you, Scott. The one comment that I'm sorry, I don't remember where I heard Trump say this, but I've heard it multiple times. The one mistake he has acknowledged making in his entire life is leaving the White House in 2020.
Yeah.
Which suggests that now that he's back in the White House and with this enormous ballroom and everything else, that he is not going to leave regardless. And he will, as you say, he won't run. There will be some sort of emergency or declared disaster or something. There won't be an election. I mean, something, or it will be a sham election, what's called in Russia an election type event, or election style event where everybody knows Putin's going to win. Trump is already apparently gearing up to keep people in line for 2026 by putting Department of Justice and other officials from the federal government into states to monitor elections, including starting next week in important elections in California and I believe New Jersey.
Yeah, New Jersey and Virginia, but
Virginia.
Brooke, I think you're making a really good point. I just want to, clarify something about that. If there's an election, and that's an if, in 2028, right? That's an if. There's going to be a primary process in both parties. Both parties are going to nominate somebody. Is there going to be an election? Okay, let's say that there is an election, and if the Republican wins, Trump just says, hey, dude, all due respect, you're not coming here. You can take over when I'm gone, but I'm not leaving. And the Republicans would go along with it. And if the Democrats win, he'll do what he tried to do last time by simply saying, no, we're not certifying this election. And J.D. Vance would do what Mike Pence didn't do. And I think that that's why J.D. Vance got the job, is to do exactly that. And he's not going to certify a Democrat as the next president. And, there we are having a big constitutional crisis, but those are the likeliest things that are going to happen. And, I don't want to make predictions about it or who's who or anything like that. But I don't think he's going to leave without getting thrown out, and I don't see who's throwing him out. So.
And, I find that very funny because when he first moved into the White House, he kept saying what a piece of shit the place was.
Oh, yeah. Well, now he's
it was
rebuilding it, though.
Yeah, well, yeah. For now, we'll see how that goes after Congress comes back into office, because he really was. There's some legal question of whether or not he's supposed to be doing all this. But anyway, I think we also have got to remember that we're talking about the Republican Party. We're talking about 2028, And we're ignoring the ambitions of the people that want that job. They all try to be as Trumpy as they possibly can to keep that base. And I think once you see the base acknowledge that there has to be an heir apparent, I guess is the best way to put it, those ambitions are going to come out. And once somebody gets the Trumpy Trump, yes, I'm as Trumpy Trump as I can look and be, and he gets the backing of the base, then I think you're going to see, Trump's power begin to wane. Because again, they're going to hitch their horse to another wagon, and that's all there is to it. The idea of not certifying the election, I think, again, they worked on that law about the vice president as being ceremonial. They've codified that it is ceremonial, and yeah, okay.
You talk about changes to laws like they matter.
Well, yeah, you'll pardon me in still accepting the fact that you still got to have a driver's license and insurance on your car. You can't be a sovereign citizen, and saying you have the right to travel, it does not work. Yeah, I mean, you gotta be that way. You've got to have some faith in the law. You've got to, because if we don't, what are you left with? I mean, what are you? I mean, you're left with a society that's even worth trying to save. And I know what you're saying, Scott. I definitely do. That I'm putting an awful lot of faith in the law and the system. And the fact is that where else are you going to go? You've got here are your options: a military coup, or a public uprising, a civil war.
Or let's you're assuming that the heir apparent is going to be somebody who's not a Trump. But what if it is a Trump? What if Donald Trump says, you know what, either Junior or Eric, you have your choice?
I don't think you'll ever say Eric.
I think Eric has stepped up recently and has been more of the favorite son while Junior's running around playing with drones and things like that. Eric has been more of his favorite son, but it really doesn't. It could be Barron. Who knows? But what if he says that? Who's going to stop him in the Republican Party? Mike Pompeo is going to go, wait, I've been waiting my turn to be president for a long time. I was first in my class at West Point. Or Marco Rubio saying, look, I've sold my soul to the devil for this. You got to give me a chance. Or J.D. Vance saying, I got Peter Thiel and all the other tech bros behind me. That's a lot of money. You don't want to mess with me. And Donald Trump just goes, oh, no, I think I know who I want to be the next president. And that's who's going to be the next president, or at least nominee from the Republican Party. And it doesn't matter how much the Republicans hate it. They're going to go along with it because for whatever reason, they're all terrified of him. The same reason why he said, if I'm impeached, I'm taking everybody down. I got dirt on everybody and everybody's going down. Why Lindsey Graham has been so close to Trump all these years. Why Rick Scott and John Thune and the rest of them keep Trump close. He's going to decide, not voters, not primary voters, not the Republican Party. If Trump is still breathing, he's going to decide who the Republican nominee is. And maybe it's a bad choice and the guy loses. If he does, he doesn't certify the election. J.D. Vance holds his fort. And, look, whatever it is, it's going to be a shit show. We should probably be ready. We should probably be ready for the worst. Ready for the worst. I mean, it already looks like we're going to war with Venezuela and possibly even Colombia. So, we may actually destabilize South America and turn them into the new Europe, where they're fighting each other and all kinds of crazy chaos goes on that continent. Bad things are coming, and we'll have to wait and see about 2028, but it ain't going to be good.
Yeah, unfortunately, I agree. So, James, I do hope that we answered your question, and thank you for asking your question. That's an excellent one. And thank you for spending some time with us on the Nova Society and for listening. And we thank all our listeners. And if you are not yet subscribed on the platform of your choice, please do so. Subscribing is free. And we hope to see you again next time on the Nova Society.
The Nova Society is a production of Nova Society Media, a division of the Phoenix Research Institute. We'd like to thank our production partners, Buzzsprout, who hosts the Nova Society, Audacity, our editing partners, Apple iTunes, the largest source of podcasts and music on the internet, Spotify, the most popular platform for the Nova Society, and iHeartRadio, your source for all things music and podcasting. The Nova Society is available on all of these and other quality platforms listed in our description. We'd also like to thank all of our listeners. Without your support, the Nova Society would not be possible. If you have a question or comment, we can be reached at nova.society.podcast@gmail.com. So for Dr. Brooklyn Ann Weldon, Dr. Scott Gershwer, and all of our production partners here at the Nova Society, I'm Dr. Mark Bound. Remember, the true power in society is knowledge. Thanks for listening, and we will see you again next time. We'd like to thank our sponsor for this episode, the Phoenix Research Group, an independent research consortium offering social-political issue solutions to NGOs and international government agencies through multidisciplinary, nonpartisan, and unbiased research. The Phoenix Research Group is a division of the Phoenix Research Institute, the producer of the Nova Society podcast.